Hey guys, in this video I will explain to you how to properly adjust the power on the GK1 pistol. Okay, so before I get in the moment and start explaining of adjustment of the power of the pistols, it just occurred to me that a lot of you may not know what these pistols are actually capable of. So let me just show you what those two pistols are capable of. So note that what you're about to see is not a practical use, a practical adjustment of the power of these pistols, but what I did is charge both of them to 350 bar fill, because that is the maximum that it's allowed in these pistols. I had to use the hand pump for that, by the way, because my my compressor goes only to 300. And what I did is open the power wheel to maximum, meaning that it was completely screwed outside on both of them. And what I did is used Altaros slugs simply because they're really consistent in weight, so I can be actually 100% sure that all of those shots were taken with the weight of the slugs that you will see on the screen. So unbelievable. 25 caliber 82 foot-pounds is the maximum. 22 caliber 70 foot-pounds. That is huge. And it's really easy to get this power, but there is a caveat, you know. This power is available only at 350 bars and only for a couple of shots. Of course, even only for one shot, because the next shot, the reservoir is already not at lower pressure than 350 bars. So that's why I'm saying it's not a practical way of using those pistols. But if you really want to see what these technologies of Huben, the GK1 can do, that's it. 82, 70. So that's more than 25 ACP, significantly more. Actually, this one is more than 25 ACP. So that's it. Let's just continue with the video where I will explain exactly how and why adjustment of the power should be made. If you haven't watched the video yet on how to enable adjustment, it's in the link below. Once you've done that, you have free access to put in the supplied Allen key to this hole in the bottom of the grip. Sorry, on top of the grip, so where your middle finger is. And then you can adjust the power. So first thing to note is that this adjustment, how hard it is to rotate, depends on how high the pressure in the cylinder is. So the higher the pressure, the harder to rotate. For a starting point, always thread it fully in and then go from there on. So fully in is minimum power, fully out. So fully out means that there is a point at which there is no more friction, no more resistance to you rotating it, so you can go too much out. So that is maximum. If you're at that point, you cannot go to any higher power. So my recommendation is as follows. There are a couple of things that you should be aware of. First, don't try to shoot really heavy and tight slugs with very low power. And this is actually also in the manual, because it might jam the gun. And second is, don't use very low pressure and have really high power adjusted on this screw. So what I would suggest you to do is put the Allen key in position where it's orientated at the same direction as the barrel, and then you know how much rotation you make. So for example, this is half rotation, this is full rotation. Second half, so 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. Typically you get about 3.5 rotation. With me it's almost exactly 3.5. Almost never is it good to have it fully open. but you can have it fully closed, for example, for really light pellets for getting maximum shot count. When you do this, I suggest that you always try it after you adjust it, meaning that, for example, you put it to, let's say, 1 revolution from minimum. So let's go to 1 revolution, and then you crony it. If you don't have a crony, that's also fine. Just watch your shot count. And my advice would be, for example, if you are a person that wants maximum shots, just close it down and use pellets and you will have maximum shots. But if you want high power, don't just fully open it, because this valve works different than the regular valves. And if you have it fully open at low pressure, which I advise you not to do, you will use much more air than it's actually needed. So meaning that the pellet or the slug will exit much sooner than the valve will close. So you'll be wasting air and not gaining any velocity for the slug or the pellet. So I advise you that what you do is start, for example, if you have a really heavy slug and one high power, start in 1.5 revolution from minimum, meaning that you rotate it from 1.5 revolution from minimum, and then try to fill it to the pressure you are typically going to fill. So let's say 300 bars for me. If I'm not using the pump, that's maximum I have. And then shoot it until you are, let's say, just under, let's say, 160, 170 bars. And see how many shots you have. And then ask yourself, how many shots do I still want to get, considering that I want maximum power? So for me, for example, that is 1 magazine. And if you are really looking for that high power, you will probably need to get only 1 magazine, because otherwise you will need to reduce the power in order to get more. So then from then on, what you do is just, if you had more shots than your magazine from that 300 to 160, 70 bars, then just increase it for a quarter of revolution and then go again. If you then get less, then put it somewhere in between. And by that you can determine the power to shot count ratio. There is also one more thing to note. If you don't have access to high pressure, adjusting high powers is pointless, extremely high powers. So everything is relative, right? This gun is really powerful. The low power on this pistol is still comparable or even higher than some high powers on other pistols. So it doesn't make any sense if you're not charging it to 300 bars to get to set it to any really high powers, because either you will have to risk really low shot count, or you will not gain the power that you actually want. So maybe one thing to explain, so it's maybe easier to adjust and understand how to adjust, is that the way this pistol works, the way it the doses of the air come, is that when there is a higher pressure, the dose is lower, meaning that the closing valve closes much faster. And the valve always opens fully, just the dosage, the length of time that the valve is open is shorter. If you have relatively high power setting, you will notice that at first the pressure gauge is really slowly moving down, because you still have high pressure, and it takes really short bursts of that pressure to get the power that you set. But when you're getting to low pressure, it will start to consume more and more air per shot. And that is normal, because it's trying to compensate for the lower pressure by having the valve open longer. And the higher your setting is, the more higher part of the pressure will be effective in terms of efficiency. And the lower part of the pressure, so let's say from 200 bars down, it will be much less effective, because it will overcompensate that lack of pressure and have the valve open for too long. So that is in a nutshell how you should adjust it. So high power, high pressure, low power, any pressure, but just don't fully open it when it's at extremely low power, and don't fully close it and put very heavy slug or pellet in. There is another good way of knowing if you appropriately adjust the power considering the weight of the slugs and the pressure range that you're using. If you have a suppressor, that is actually quite a good tool, because suppressor is only effective if you have appropriate settings on the power wheel. If you open it too far, the gun will get really loud even without suppressor. You will hear the blast of the air despite the fact that there is suppressor on. But you have appropriate air, dosage of air, so power adjustment, that will be minimized really a lot. And also one thing to note is that very minimum reduction of power can actually mean a lot more shots. So if you are the guy that really still wants to have substantial amount of shots, just lower it down a little bit. You might not notice that lower power anyways, and you will also notice the amount of recoil when you have the valve open for too long. So even if you don't have a suppressor, you will have much more recoil, simply because the recoil is not because of the acceleration of the pellet or slug, but it's actually from the air burst behind it. Hope this is helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.